I'm going to grow in the Vine Ministries, everybody, where we teach people how to grow, change, and produce in everyday life. So I think you guys like this sermon today. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then I'm talking about faith today. So let me go on and put that up there. I'm talking about faith, and we can put your where however you want to do this. But I think I'm gonna come from an interesting perspective that might make you look a little differently about some of these faith sermons that you have heard before. But for a lot of people, I think they say they have faith and they like to say those things, but I think it's misunderstood sometimes by a lot of people. And for me, I won't say faith is misunderstood by me, but my faith is continually changing. It's continually doing something. It's continually growing. And it seems like it's ebbs and flows sometimes. But man, I have great faith sometimes. And other times I'd be like, oh man, where's my faith? Where's my faith at in those seasons? But it's just a process that we go to, but I'm still learning. And I think as everybody goes through life, man, if we do trust and believe and we continue to walk this out, we can say that we're still learning. At least hopefully you are still learning. But we heard people say sometimes like, I'm in the faith. And then so you're like, okay, all right, you're in the faith. But, sometimes what does that mean? And then sometimes we say things like, man, all you need is faith the size of a mustard seed. It's all right, well, what does that mean sometimes, Because I'm saying, man, I'm believing, but things ain't changing. Things ain't shifting the way I want them to. But I'm trusting you, Lord. And then I've even heard things like faith it till you make it. So what does that mean? Does that mean once you get there, you lose your faith or your faith is over with? What really happens when they say faith it till you make it? Make it to where? But it's just, and people have talked. I came up in the prosperity gospel message, if you guys were in that. And so, it was different things like they just name it and claim it. God wants you to prosper and everything is, this and that. So I remember one time, I don't know if my dad remembers this, but I remember like yesterday. And so I was believing God for a house. And so I couldn't afford the house, but faith just says, go get this house. You claimed it, so it's yours. That's kind of, at least that's what I got out of the message when they were teaching this stuff. And so maybe I was wrong. So I remember, man, we go to this nice neighborhood and we're standing on the grounds proclaiming that this house is ours. That was me. I don't know if you remember that, Dad. You remember that, Nancy? So I'm like, and so I look back on that stuff and I'm like, man, I was crazy. But that's what they were telling me sometimes, man. You just go stand. And I'm thinking like that could have been somebody's house. And so I'm over claiming this. And sometimes the parameters with that faith, it was just like, man, whatever you speak is going to manifest. God is moving on. And I believe that. Yes. But you have to be in line with the will of God also. And see, it's not just us, because if it was up to us, yeah, I have the cars, the house, the money. I would name and claim everything. But it's a little different with faith. I'm being serious. And when I get more in tune with God, I pray God's perfect will for where I'm at in my life. Because sometimes you can't handle this stuff. You can't handle this. I couldn't handle this stuff if I'd have had this and God would just gave me everything at one time. This is a process that I go through, and I'm happy to go through this process now. It's an enjoyable process once you get into this stream. But a lot of our faith is at different spots. We can go through this room, and man, faith is different, and faith is different for a lot of different reasons. It might be your upbringing, It might be that, maybe your family had more money than somebody else's family. It seems like, I'm being honest, poor people have a lot more faith than rich people. I don't know why it works like that, but it just is, man. When you poor, you holding on to God's ever unchanging hand. You're like, Lord, I'm happy for this. I'm happy for that. I'm trusting you for everything. and so I've been at that spot before. And it was actually, I would probably say one of the greatest times of our life. We were trusting God for everything because you kept seeing God work. And it seems like sometimes the less I depend on God, the less I see God do. Because now it starts to get into my works, what I can handle. But man, when you trust and believe in God, oh my goodness, it puts you in a different mindset. And you start to feel like you can run through a brick wall. You say, man, come hell or high water, I'm searching and chasing after God with all my heart. Nothing is going to shift me off this path because I know he got me. Now, nobody else has me, but God has me. All right. And so let me go here. Let me go on and start reading these scriptures. But we're going to come out of Hebrews, the 11th chapter, in the first verse. And so everybody knows this. These are great examples of faith here. So now I'm going to shift just a little bit. And y'all look at this. And it's going to be an interesting perspective that I come from. All right, look at this here. And this is what it says. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. So your reality is sometimes what you're faith in. See, what I hear you talk about, what I hear you say, that's the reality that you're living in. And your faith will reveal that. See, it's the evidence of things we cannot see. So when I hear you say certain things, I'm like, okay, that's the reality that they want. That's what they're searching after. That's where they're seeking God for in this time. But look at what it says here in verse 2. It says, through their faith, the people of days of old earned a good reputation. So by having faith, your reputation is good. If you trust in what God is saying. Through their faith, the people of days of old earned a good reputation. It's very interesting when they says, man, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? So I don't know. I don't see many good reputations out here right now. So I guess they don't believe in the faith. But look at what it shows here in verse 3. It says, by faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command. And so how else would and most people, they Big Bang Theory and all that and evolution that we've heard those things. But by faith, we believe that God created this. See, that's what we believe. And sometimes I feel like, man, if it was the Big Bang Theory and two atoms banging together, I'm like, well, why aren't they banging together again? That's just me. That's just me. And then if we evolve from monkeys, I said, how come monkeys ain't turned into people again? So my mind, my faith says, all right, God created this. He said, let there be, and then there was. Okay. All right. And so that what we see did not come from anything that can be seen. So that's from God. See, nobody has seen God, so we know that he formed all this stuff. And so look here, and but when we look at these verses here, and it's three things that happen. It says, man, faith shows reality through a thing. They had a good reputation through their faith, and then we understand the universe was formed by faith. Okay? But if you continue to read in this chapter, it shows some great examples of faith. It say, man, the faith did this, their faith did that, and their faith did this. But some people's faith got them in good situations. Some people's faith got them out of situations. But other people were tortured for their faith. So that's still faith then, isn't it? Even though it doesn't work out the way we think it should, that is still faith. Because when it truly comes to faith, you shouldn't be trusting in what you think faith should be. We need to trust in the source of our faith, which is God. And if it doesn't happen the way you think it should, it's the way God thinks it should happen. See, because when you go through God's faith, it puts you in a different arena because now you're in God's perfect will. See, the reason why I usually don't like I turn aside is because things ain't working the way I think they should work. But we still say, man, all things are working together for my good. We say that. But we really want it to work the way we want it. And God's faith usually doesn't work the way you want it. God always does it a little different than I think it should be done. I don't know if it happens to y'all, but then you look back and you be like, oh my goodness, I'm glad it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So man, the source that I'm trusting in is really a good thing. So look at this right here. This is what faith is. And when we used to use faith, and when I came up and they say, man, just trust and believe. But look, this is what faith is right here. It's allegiance to duty or a person. So I want to be allegiance to God. I'm not seeking God's hand. I'm seeking God's faith. See, I just don't want the benefits of serving God. I want to serve God for who he is. I don't want to shift off of that because now my circumstance will dictate how I serve God. See, if things are going good, I serve him good. Things are going bad, I'm like, man, let me find another God. And you see people do that all the time. You're like, man, God ain't working, so I'm going to go serve this money. I'm going to go serve this job. You know, I'm not trusting in that no more. But it says belief and trust and loyalty to God. So you're believing, you're trusting in what God has and what God has in store for you here. And so it's complete trust and loyalty. Wow. And it's not in the thing, it's not in things, it's in the source, God. It's in God. So that's what we need to focus in on. Our faith isn't in nothing else, but our faith is truly in God, that it has our best interest at hand and it's gonna work out for our good. But when we look at examples of faith, and a lot of people don't like to, use these bad examples because we always like the good, but I like looking at the bad sometimes too. When you look at Stephen, great man of faith, stoned to death. And he was sitting there and he looked up and I guess he didn't feel whatever was happening to him, but they stoned him. His faith got him stoned. Okay, now hopefully that never happens to neither one of us, but has your faith ever got you beat up yet? and you didn't throw a stone back. He didn't even throw a stone back. So, man, that was faith in a different type of source. Because me, I don't know, I might have got to running and say, yeah, keep hitting me with all these rocks. But look at our Savior's faith. His faith made him go to the cross. His faith made him go to the cross. So really, these little present sufferings are nothing to be compared to what we have in store. It doesn't matter. These little things, man, this is nothing compared to where God is going to take us to if we trust and believe in him and not worry about what we can get. It's not about that. And that's why, look, and Jesus served all these people. He said, look, man, you're just here for the fish and the loaves. He said, because I'm doing miracles. And look at John. What did Jesus say about John? He said, look, he said, this guy is the greatest prophet ever. That's what he said. And what did John say when he was in jail? Hey, are you the one? Are you the one, or should we go get somebody else? Because his faith was wavering. See, he was in a circumstance he didn't think he would be in, because he was doing the Lord's will. He was preaching the good word. Man, make way, because this guy's coming. Man, I can't even lace this guy's shoes. He's so powerful. And then when he gets thrown in jail, hey man, you. And then he then went and called his disciples or his goons. He had some gangsters with him. I'm not calling them gangsters, but he had a crew. He said, hey man, you go find Jesus. And you tell him, is he the one, or do we need to look for another? And what Jesus said, he said, hey man, tell John the blind are being healed, the lame are walking, and the gospel is being preached to the poor. Take that to him. Because, man, when we get in certain circumstances, we can't let our faith waver. We can't let it do that. We say, man, hey, we're sticking with you, God. He should have sent word saying, hey, I'm still praying for you, Jesus. I hope everything works out for you and they don't throw you in jail. But it's very interesting is how that works. But my faith is usually based on the outcome that I want to happen. That's usually everybody's faith. Our faith is saying, man, Lord, all right, I need $500. So, all right, give me $500. But if we were in this room and say, man, first one to raise your hand gets $500. If you raise your hand first, is your faith better than my faith? Is your faith really better than my faith? And they say, man, God is working that out because I got this. I got the $500. So we hand one of you the $500. Y'all get the $500 first. And we say, all right, well, that's good. But then later on, the guy comes back and he says, hey, man, I want to offer you a $500 job. You show up here every week and I'm going to give you $500 for doing this little work for me. So which faith is greater? Which faith is greater? Because I think, man, now you're not just giving them a fish. You're teaching them how to fish continually. You can hand them a fish and you say, all right, man, now that's my faith. You say, no, man, if you continually get this, that's a different type of faith. but it's gonna cost you something. See, it's gonna. Now I got to do some work. But we usually just want, all right, Lord, I'm just gonna stand here and I'm gonna wait on you. I'm gonna wait on you, God. And I know you're gonna provide everything. But he's saying, look, go, preach, teach, talk about it, do some good stuff. And it might cost you something. They might call you crazy. They might call you stupid. And they say, hey man, it doesn't matter what they say. Doesn't matter what they say. I remember it, and so my wife, she was we had, interesting thing happen. And my wife said, well, they're gonna go talk about you. I say, good. I said, they talked about Christ. He said, look, he said, John came, he didn't eat and drink or do none of this. And y'all said he was crazy. But he said, look, man, I drink and I was hanging out with him. And now y'all call me a wine bibber. Y'all call me a glutton. Y'all call me everything but a child of God. And so this is what happens. But you can't let that bother you because you know where you stand in your faith with God. Walk this path out the way God has told you to walk this out. But from my experience, and I don't know, y'all have experiences too. I'm not just negating that. I just got the mic. But maybe y'all faith works differently. But a lot of things through my faith hasn't been exactly the way I wanted it. And I thank God every day that it hasn't been the way that I wanted it to work out. God has my best interest at hand. And I think he has every single one of our best interests at hand. So continue to fight the good fight of faith. But look at what Hebrews 11:13 says. Look what this says right here. It says, all these people died still believing what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and they welcomed it. They agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on earth. See, so we fall in love so much with wanting to be a part of this world that we don't think about the life that we have to come. We do everything for the right now. We do everything for right now. Say, man, we got to get this, we got to get that because we want to be here for forever. But then now, as you get close to death, and I don't know if this happens to everybody, but we'll see. As you get close to death and you hear people talking, well, I think God is returning. And say, yeah, now since you 90 years old, it's time for him to come back now, isn't it? Your faith wasn't saying that when you was young and running these streets. Now all of a sudden, oh yeah, God's going to return. I don't know if y'all heard that. I've heard it before. the tune changes just a little bit when you get older. But it said, look, they did not receive what was promised, but they saw it. Their faith saw something coming in the distance. And I look at our lifestyle, and I was explaining this to my wife earlier today. I said, man, it was such a blessing that my dad followed the faith. I said he followed the faith of God. So he got us out of Chicago. All right, moved us out of Chicago, joined the military, moved around, did little things. And I say, so now the next step is for me to carry this on also. See, and so now I say, man, once I carry this on, now my daughter can move this thing a little forward too. See, so my dad saw something better and he welcomed it. See, he welcomed this. And so now he might not see every promise fulfilled like he wanted it to, but it's coming. See, it's coming because he started to do that. And you started to look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and see that's who he was talking about in here. He said, man, they didn't see everything that was coming to pass because he told Abraham, he said, look, count the sea over here, count the sand. That's what your descendants is going to look like. But he didn't see it, but he still welcomed it because he's saying, man, if God said it, I believe it, and that's good enough for me. We'll stand there on that. So we have to get that in mind, man. Like our faith just isn't for you to get everything that you need. I heard a pastor say that, man, every time we get something, we think it's for us. He said, your faith is so messed up, your faith won't let you give nothing to nobody. And we get everything. And so now you're never a conduit. And we say, oh, God's blessing me and I'm going to change lives. And everything we get, we say, oh, man, look at God. He's blessing me. Oh, he's giving it to me. Oh, God's doing it. And we never spread it out to nobody else. That's a lack of faith because you're thinking that God will not get nothing else to you. Saying it's the end. This the end. I got to take everything I can. So even sometimes when God is blessing you with something, think about it. Say, Lord, is this for me, or do I need to pass this on to somebody else? And that helps your faith. That'll grow your faith, because you say, man, now I'm not trusting this thing. I'm continue trusting in God, because He blessed me with it. He can bless me with some more. And so it's Him. He's the source. And so this is the last one, the last verse here. And it says, all these people earned a good reputation because of their faith. Is your faith giving you a good reputation? Is your faith giving you a good reputation? Yet none of them received all God had promised. And I'm not saying that to put a downer on you, but everything, you're not going to receive everything until you actually go home to be with the Lord. That's going to be your final promise. You say, man, now I can rule and reign with Christ, because now I'm out of here. But if you don't see everything, is that going to make you lose faith? And probably some of the stuff that you might be believing God for probably isn't even in God's will for your life. And we get so broke up about, like, Lord, what are you doing? You say, that's not God's will. That's not God's will. So when you really seek and can pledge your loyalty to God Himself and not what He can do, He will start to reveal His will for you. And now you're not out here like, man, I don't know what's happening here. You know, God, what did you told this? You said that. He never said that. He never said that to you. You might have heard that from somebody else, or just your conscience talking to you. God didn't say that. Yeah, God didn't say that. So get in tune with what God is doing and trust everything that He is working out the way He said it needs to work out. But look at this. This is what we have to come to the realization with, especially if you're going to walk with God in these last days, which I think they are. Are you good not receiving your way? It can't always be your way. See, if we say that we serve somebody else, won't we let them interject in our life and let them serve it to us how they want to serve it to us? Or let it work out the way they want to work it out in our life? So we have to become good with not receiving the way you think you should receive. Let God give it to you. I received the blessing last week. I was a little down last week. You know, truck went out. people missing and different things like that. And you're like, man, Lord, what's going on here? What's happening here? But I received a nice blessing. I received a blessing. I was like, man, so that's still showing that, man, I didn't see that coming, but I'm worried about something working out this way, but God is working on my behalf. And I'm like, what, man, what? Oh, ye of little faith. Trust me, Jesse. Believe in me, Jesse. I'm working this out for you. And it's for everybody in here. He's working it out for us. If you're walking the godly path, He's working it out for you. I put a thing on Facebook the other day, and I was just upset. I was wrong, because I was reading Facebook, and it's amazing, man. A lot of godly people on Facebook. And so I'm on Facebook. I say, man, I said, isn't it amazing? Everybody's doing God's plan, but they don't do godly things. I say, man. And maybe I'm starting to get offended, because I'm like, man, that's my Father. That's the guy that I serve. That's the guy that I serve with all my heart. And y'all saying y'all serve him, your hearts are very far from him. It's not costing you nothing. You can still drink, you can still smoke, you can still listen to rap music, you can still cuss people out, but you say, I'm in God's plan. It's ridiculous. I don't know no other way to say it, but man, it's ridiculous. And you're not even a good witness for everybody else. That's not a good reputation. You're not earning a good reputation. So come on, let's set this standard and be real Christians, real believers. Let's get a true relationship and serve the real, true God, and not do it when it's convenient for us. God wants more. God wants more. We're a representative of Him. We're a representative of Christ. Joint heirs. So start getting happy with the way life comes and count it all joy. Don't lose the faith. Continue to stay in the faith. What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? He said, man, once you've been enlightened, it's going to be hard to go back to this. Once you've tasted the goodness of God, how do you go back? It's a man like a pig going back to slop, a dog going back to his mom. How do you go back to that? You cannot do it. But don't lose the faith and accept the faith the way God gives it to you. Don't get a conjure up in your mind that I have to get it this way. God has his perfect will in mind. God has his perfect plan in mind. Do you think these men of faith, and they show, I don't know if they talked about Joseph in there, but I'm gonna talk about Joseph, because if you look at Joseph, what if Joseph saw everything? God said, man, you're gonna go through this, you're gonna go through that. You say, no, I don't want it. I don't want it, Lord. That's too hard of a burden. That's too much. So God can reveal this to you all the way sometimes. So just trust and say, man, it's going to turn out good. Because go and read Hebrews 11, because we have some great examples of faith. Great examples of faith over there. And so we got a manual to go by. He didn't know. He didn't know what was going to happen. We just get to read it. What if they put our story in there? What would that look like? If they got the right story, somebody was like, yeah, Jesse, he did believe sometimes, but then he complained a lot. he bickered with people a lot. He cussed a lot. he was everywhere. Yeah. But I don't do that, Miss Deborah. But so my story would be pretty good. But but just imagine if they did put some of these people's stories in there, what it would look like. You be like, man, if they put me in this book, ooh, man. But God is good. Continue to trust him. Continue to believe, and don't let your faith waver. You cannot let it waver, because it always works out for your good. I guarantee you. It's going to work out for your good. But God bless you.